Hello, hello, hello. I'm making a thing. Welcome to S is Terrified. This is the thing I'm making. So, this is going to be a tree, and I'm using some stuff from the craft store. I'm also using some stuff that I found around the house, like the little blue container that I just traced, like seriously came out of my recycling bin, and the template that I traced it on that I'm kind of cringing about because I could have just traced it directly onto cardboard. It's like an old World Cup bracket that I made for summer. So I'm also measuring like inside the container depth because I'm trying to make it look like a little potted plant, okay? So I need to have something for the scary tree that I'm making to stand on, how you say. And so there's going to be support. I'm also putting some, I guess you would call it ballast, in the container to make it stable and make it so the bottoms of the container is heavier than the tops of the container. But I'm using cardboard for now, and so I'm cutting a cardboard circle that's as big as the top of the container, and I'm also cutting a couple of squares with some notches in it to, like, how I say, to hold it up in the thing. So that's what I'm doing right now. Those are the squares, and I'm going to have to recut them to size as well, but so it'll be a custom fit in there, because see, that's a little bit too big and a little bit too tall, so I've got to cut those just a little bit. But that's fine. I can do that. And the cardboard is also something that I found in my house in the recycling bin. And as long as your recyclables are clean, then yeah, sure, reuse them. So, just cutting that to size. So it's almost Halloween. It's like 2 weeks till Halloween. I'm excited. And I'm glad to have made this decoration. I'm planning on making a couple other like little things. This was probably the most intense project I got involved in for this holiday, except for my costume, which I have not even started, and our big our big bar crawl is like next week, so this coming weekend's gonna be really intense. So yeah, I'm stuffing the container also with styrofoam, and it's like styrofoam and glue, because that way it all just sticks together real nice, and it's not going to make the container super heavy, but it's at the very least not going to be hollow. And for the top disc, I crumpled up this bit of paper because I'm going to give the disc on top a little bit of texture. It's going to be cool. Trust me, it all turns out a lot cooler than you would think. So, covering that top disc with some of the crumpled paper, and I'm cutting it to size so there's not too much excess and it's easier to fold in. Just gluing it. I'd wanted to read some Halloween creepypastas, but I don't know. I kind of like talking through the procedure. It makes me feel like I'm teaching an actual arts and crafts class, which I'll never do because I hate speaking in public. You know, thank God there's YouTube for that. So, obviously I don't want to use just this rando blue container and keep it as that for the tree. So I'm painting it, and I started with like a coat of white, and I didn't paint the lid because the lid is already white, but I just went straight at it with the copper, and I left the copper kind of brushstrokey and mottled. I did that on purpose. I could have gone over with another coat. I just didn't. I don't know. I felt like the brushstrokes fit better with the aesthetic of what I'm doing. So, my intention was then to paint the container black after I had painted it white, but I didn't. So now we're getting to the tree part. And this is like one of those wire gem trees that you see in the tourist shop. At least that's the base of it. So I'm using a cool rock that I found on the beach as a base, like cool flat rock, to give it some dimension. And then I just started twisting all these wires for branches. And I did cut the wires a bit too long, but then I would use like the excess that I'd trimmed off to continue to make more little branchlets and more little like rootlets, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if rootlets is even a word or branchlets. I think those are actual things. But just to give it some more. Just give it some more. This was fun. This bit was seriously fun. I went through a phase like 10 years ago where I just made tons of gem trees this way, like where I would just wrap the wire around a rock and like make a vague tree shape and then just put like little gemstone chip bead thingies on it. And this is definitely a similar concept. So that's that. It looks like a giant wire spider, and I'm going on with some thinner wire to make like more little bits of roots and more little twigs and more stuff. 'Cause more is more. Man, I sped this video up to like 8 times. It looks like it's just running at Sonic 2 speed. It's actually quite a brilliant thing to watch. I think from my perspective, having taken forever and ever to do it all. So these are now just more little wire branches. Maybe I did put in more footage than I needed to, but sometimes it helps to see things like as fully as possible to get the full picture. Okay, so here's the other fun part is I did paper mache over the branches, but I used tissue paper. And I actually really like how it turned out. The texture was like, once I finished it, it was great. It was really messy. I cut way too much of this tissue paper, and I separated it in half, so I only used like half the tissue paper in the package, but I still cut way too much, and I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with the leftover. Maybe I'll just do more tissue mache. I don't know. But I'm starting to wrap like the base of the tree, and this bit was really messy, and I didn't want to use, you can make paper mache paste out of like flour and water, but that won't keep very long, and I thought that would be gross, so I used just a 50-50 roughly of just regular PVA glue and water. And what I did is, so I cut all that paper with the intent that I was going to do all that stuff during the daytime. And between my own apartment and my mother's apartment, there was not like a single bottle of just regular PVA glue. And so I had to go to the store, and I walked 2 miles to Target. I did my grocery shopping. I got my pumpkin spice latte and took my pumpkin spice latte selfie, and I understand that certain people hate that, and that just made me want to do it more. I also personally hate the pumpkin spice latte. I don't hate it, but when I was overhearing at the Target that they still had the Cascara latte syrup available, because she was explaining it to another lady who was like from out of the country, and I was like, oh, I could have had that. It would have been so much better. But I don't know. So I glued the tree back to the rock base and glued the rock back on, and now I'm gluing it onto the container. And what I did instead of painting the container is, because I had all that tissue left, and I've still got all that damn tissue left. There is so much of it. I just started, doing more tissue mache over the container, which gives it a really neat texture. I'm totally here for the textures. But, I just kept going at it and trimming the tree a little bit, like neatening up the branches. I also used a little bit of, like, some of the tissue mache. I would form it in places where there wasn't, like, wire for a branch. I would just form, like, a little twig. So, now's the other fun part. Those eyes are from Tim Holtz, and I'm glad I got them when I did in, like, August, because then I went a week later, like, the first weekend of September, and they were already off the shelf. So, like, I rarely pay full price for a craft product, but that time I did, and, I'm glad, because I could have very easily not had them. And I'm just gluing them to the tree, just with, like, regular tacky glue. Just trying to figure out which ones fit. This was really fun, like, trying to get the eyeballs in the right configuration. And just sticking eyeballs to things. I don't know. I enjoy sticking eyeballs to things as an activity, which I don't know what that says about me, but that's what I did. All those eyeballs. And I decided to put a couple little scully skulls at the base of the tree, like under the roots where the rock is sitting, just for decoration. There's no function or purpose to that, but not everything has to be functional or have a purpose. Some things can just be for pretty. That's what my grandma on my dad's side would always say, some things are just for pretty. And that's what the skulls are for. The skulls are there for pretty. Sorry, Grandma. That's just how it is in my world. So I didn't want it to just look like the eyeballs were just randomly glued to the tree, because then there would be, like, little gaps in between the tree, because the eyeballs are kind of flat and the tree is round and bumpy shaped. So I did a bit more tissue mache over the edges of it, so it looks like they're kind of growing out of the tree rather than just, like, being stuck to it. And that was a messy endeavor, but this entire project has been a messy endeavor, and I have no regrets. So, just doing more of that, and also just doing a little bit of extra little tissue mache bits in the places that I think I missed. Like, there was one join in the wires up at the top that was just, like, even though I covered it a couple times or attempted to, like, it was still showing, so I had to go. And I'm also going at it with some black paint and making some gray paint for the base. I kind of wanted to go with, like, a rusted iron color, and of course it's still, like, too light a gray, so I had to mix a little bit. And the sponge that I used was just from... I buy all my cleaning supplies in bulk, so I just had, like, a bunch of extra sponges under the kitchen cabinet, and I just grabbed one, and now it's, like, a dedicated painting sponge. And I used a little bit of that crimson paint as well, so it has some color. And finish it off. I was going to put little fairy lights on it, and I decided not to because I thought that the wiring of the fairy lights would be too much, and I just didn't have time to, like, paint it. So I'm just gonna glue the container back into the base, which used to be the lid. And got those tiny little bats as well. Those are just so darling. I think they're cute. Did you know that bats eat their weight in bugs every night? So they are really beneficial, and in some parts of the world, they also act as pollinators for like big fruits. So, respect the bats. Just make sure your animals are up to date on their shots. And I also got this sort of how would I describe it? It's bandage texture ribbon. So I cut a little bit of it. I tried to cut it with a box cutter to get it off the thing, and that did not work, so I had to grab scissors. Which is fine, I've got scissors. And I did do a little bit with my box cutter. Be super careful if you do this, by the way, to distress the ribbon and not your fingers. Like, I don't know how my fingers managed to come out of that unscathed, but just to, like, I just cut little bits in the thing, the ribbon. So that's all my Halloween stuff set up so far. I got those little, I don't think they're luminaries, I think they're supposed to be candy dishes from Target. Like, I had those candles in them for 5 minutes and they got super freaking hot, so that's something to keep in mind. But they're sweet, they're funny. I like them. And my little tree right there, which does not show up in the background, but the poster that's behind it, I really need to get framed because it is, I don't know, I found it in my parents' basement. It's pretty brill. Super close up. Why won't you freaking focus? Yeah, so that's some of my Halloween stuff. And yeah, that's what it looks like when I take the poster out. So thanks for watching. Maybe you can try it at home. Bye.